Hello, friends. I am Chevee. Welcome to my shed. How are you today? How's life in your world? How's things where you are? Hope it's all great and fantastic and wonderful. Everything here is fantastic. A little bit of rain, but other than that, it's good. As you all, some of you know, hopefully all of you know, if you're subscribed, you would know because you've watched lots of videos recently. I've been dorking around with game design again lately. Something I haven't done in years. Something that used to be a huge part of my life for like all of my 20s and 30s. I was a game designer, or I wanted to be a game designer, and I worked on game design, you know, all of the time. And then it just kind of stopped. I started taking medication, and I started having serious doubts about my abilities to be a game designer, and I just kind of stopped doing it. But I've been dorking with it again lately. And while I was in Myrtle Beach, I had an epiphany about an old design. So my brain has been, I've been thinking a lot about train games lately. My game group is getting ready to start back up, and I have the Capstone Games train line, Irish Gauge and Ride the Rails, and hopefully Iberian Gauge soon, that I'm really excited to play. And I've been thinking about train games a lot lately, and I've never designed one. That's not true. I've designed 2 train games. There used to be kind of a joke within the game design community that you're not a real designer until you've designed some train games, and that's everybody. Everybody has to try to design one, and I did. I designed 2, but me being me, I decided they would never be about trains. So first off, the game that I've been talking about recently, the utilities game that was based on, there was originally a kind of First Nations themed Native American game, was truthfully was a train game that I just themed as something else. It was a route building train game. But it's now not, and it's much better for it. I tried to make a train game. I tried to take a train game and twist it a little bit. And what came out of that is good, but it's not a train game. It doesn't have any of those aspects anymore. The second one I designed, I themed it as airlines, because airlines aren't trains, right? And the concept of it was that we were passengers on airlines, like at the beginning of the airline industry, and we were trying to visit the most cities. We were like in a competition with each other to visit cities. And for some reason, there was this airplane that moved around or up and down a track that allowed you to buy tickets to different cities, right? And for some reason, you were trying to get sets of cities. So getting 2 would get you a certain amount of points. Getting 3, like pairs. Getting pairs of cities would get you points. And I don't know why. Like visiting Chicago twice would get you points, but visiting once doesn't. It didn't make any sense. But my friends liked it. We played it, and my one friend was super encouraging. I felt like it was way too chaotic. The way the game mechanics worked, which I'll tell you about here in a second, was very chaotic. And because of that, it didn't feel like it had a whole lot of strategy. So I took that game and I rethemed it as a children's game about the sock monster. And then that theory is that the sock monster is, you know, taking your socks, and so you're trying to find pairs of socks because all you have is singletons. And the theme made a lot more sense. And the gameplay fit a children's style game better, but it still wasn't a very good game. It was just kind of okay. So the epiphany that I had over the week was about, I just started thinking about that game and like, why didn't that game work? And I've been thinking about trains, and I'm like, why isn't that a good train game? Why isn't it a good kind of rendition of a train game, or my version of a train game? A very, very simple train game. There is no map. There is no cubes. There is no, well, there is cubes. That's beside the point. There is no, you're not shipping goods or anything like that. There's just trains, and you're trying to get these trains. And what I thought about was, for one, instead of collecting pairs, instead of trying to get, say, in this case, I'm trying to get these 2 red cards, that scores me some number of points. These are effectively like shares in other train games, but in this they're cargo. So I'm collecting cargo for victory points. And why shouldn't, I made them scale in rarity from grains down to ores, and so you're trying to collect sets. And the reason that the old version didn't work, the way this game works is there's a line of some number of cards. I think it's going to be 9. It could be like 12 or 13 if you're playing with more players. But there'll be this long line of these train cards, and they come dealt out. And there's there's 5 different goods types. And the train starts on one of these. The last player gets to pick where the train starts. And on your turn, you move the train and you take that card wherever the train lands. But in order to move the train, you have to pay coal, right? So you have a coal supply, and each space you move the train costs you 1 coal. And so you move the train, you get a coal. And so what ends up happening is this train is moving up and down this track. And the interesting decisions are, do I go for the card that helps me complete my set? Do I move the train, or maybe there's a rare card out there that I don't want you to have because you have a set, so I move the train farther away so that you're going to have to pay extra to get to it. Like, which way do I move? Like, am I hoping that it's going to come back around and this card's still going to be out, so I'm going to move the train away from that? There's interesting decisions on how you move that train back and forth. And what I came up with was part of the reason the game didn't work was that it's just really obvious, right? Like, I'm collecting, say in the train version, I'm collecting crude oil. So if there's a crude oil out there and you don't have any crude oil, and you're in front of me, like you're going before me, you move the train away from the crude oil so that I have to pay more to get it. It's like really obvious, right? It's kind of painfully obvious. And then it comes my turn and I pay and I get my crude oil. And now the next guy, whatever. The turns became really just, obvious. There was really not a whole lot of choice in what you were doing. You were just kind of reacting to the state of the board. The board was changing constantly because people were taking cards and the train was moving. And by the time it got back around to your turn, you just kind of had to figure out what the best move for that turn was. And it was typically pretty obvious. So what I did, in that version of the game, it was always going in the same direction, which means that you're always going after the person to your right and before the person to your left, which means that the train setup, where the train is on the track, you really only influence the guy next to you, and you're constantly influenced by the guy behind you. So one of the things I changed was I added initiative to the cards. So now, when you take a card, you also get to think about how is that card going to affect your next turn. Is it going to make you go earlier in the turn track or later in the turn? So buying a card might be, maybe you're just going to, there's nothing out there that you really want, so you're going to take a high initiative card so that you can go first next round and maybe influence things a little bit better. So alternating turns, I think, is going to help. But in addition, what I decided to do was use the backs of these cards for a little extra oomph. And what I mean by that is some of these cards, so these are all purples, which whatever purple is, some of these cards will have a 2 on the back and some of these will have a 1. This one that's a 2 counts as 2 goods. And so you don't know. Like, it's out there, you'll take it, you can look, but nobody else can see. And so I might have these in front of me. I might have these in front of me and you have this, but we both have 2. And so when the game ends, we both kind of get to share the bonus for first place or whatever. And so it adds a little extra oomph that just, yes, it's random. It's completely random. You have no clue because I've worked really hard to make sure that the cards in the deck it's not obvious. Like I guess you in theory could memorize all of the cards. There's currently 99 in the prototype deck, but we'll see what happens. And the reason I'm showing you this is because this is what a first draft card game looks like for me. It's literally just 2 numbers and some Sharpie mark on a white card, and I only made 3 of each type, and I shuffle them and I put them out and I play with it. I move the train around. I set up the initiative track so I can see what things are like. I move. One of the things I realized immediately was, say I take this card and now we play out the rest of the round and you take this card. Well, how many spaces are over here? How far does this train have to move? I don't want a board. That's extra manufacturing. I don't want that. So what I realized was, well, we'll just put cards sideways, and now you can take that sideways card, but you don't get the card, you just get the coal. that added a little bonus. And so having this simple little 15 cards to dork with really helped me see some of the mechanics. And so what I have done, I have already drafted a very, very, very quick rough draft layout for these cards, and I've ordered a set off of the Game Crafter. I don't have access to free printing anymore like I used to, and I'm also not really interested in cutting and sleeving 100 and some cards anymore. It's much easier for me to just order from the Game Crafter. Yes, it costs me money, but that's okay. I have money in the my business account, so that's what it's there for. So I've already ordered it. And some people asked if I was going to do a designer diary for this like I used to do. I might, actually. I think I might do it maybe on the Chevee Plays channel. I think that's the correct place for something like this. I don't think that cluttering this channel up even more is going to help anybody, but we'll see. For now, I have to wait and see, one, when the order comes in, if what I have designed is workable, and two, if I screwed anything up on the order, which is very likely with me. So that's all I have for you today. I don't know if this is helpful to anybody, but that's an insight into how I work on game design. Thank you for being here as always. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, being amazing friends and wonderful people. I really appreciate you. And I'll see you again tomorrow. Today's word you should know to sound smart is gauche. It is an adjective meaning sorely lacking in the social graces and good manners. Crucial behavior. Nope, crude behavior. Why did I say crucial? Rhett was under the impression that one needed only money to join the country club. However, his gauche demeanor caused him to be denied membership. Gauche. G-A-U-C-H-E. I'm pretty gauche. My kids would tell you that I lack all of the social graces. I can pretend, though.